Hey guys, so the time is here. So I finally have my top 10 favorite films of 2022. My list for that is ready to go. These are 10 films that, for me personally, reflect the best qualities of film throughout the 2022 film year. These are 10 films that, for me personally, achieve something or do something that really impressed me over the course of the year. And these are just 10 personal picks of mine that really reflect me as a person, me as a moviegoer, and things that I look for in film. But before we get started with that, I do want to give some runners up of some films I did enjoy throughout 2022, but they didn't quite make the list. I also have two films for sure that I didn't get around to seeing. So, however I feel about these two films when I eventually do review them, if I do see them, these two films will not impact this list. These are just based on films that I did manage to see over the 2022 film year, and obviously in early 2023 to prepare for this list. But two films I was hoping to see before making this list were Empire of Light from Sam Mendes and I Want to Dance with Somebody, the Whitney Houston biopic. I did not get around to seeing either one of those, so those are two films that, no matter how I feel about them when I eventually do review those, it doesn't factor into this list at all. But I said that I had some runners up here that I wanted to bring up. These are a list of films that I enjoyed throughout 2022, but once again, they didn't quite make the cut for best of the year. So let's go over those quickly. Those films would be Scream, Uncharted, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Thor Love and Thunder, Halloween Ends, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, A Christmas Story Christmas, The Adam Project, She Said, Avatar The Way of Water, Chippendale Rescue Rangers, and Glass Onion: A Knives Out Mystery. These are all films I really enjoyed throughout 2022, but they just quite weren't good enough to make the list. But they are films I do recommend. So, any of those films I just mentioned, if you haven't seen them and want to see them, I do recommend that you do see them. But let's go over the 10 films that I do feel are the best in 2022 and reflect my personal opinion the most as far as what the best of the year provided for 2022. So at number 10, we're going to start with Damien Chazelle's Babylon. I really enjoyed this movie. Don't get me wrong, there's some problems with it. It is a very long movie. I think it should have been significantly cut down in the editing room, at least by a good 40 minutes or so. But man, when this movie delivers, it delivers. The filmmaking is very good. I like all the things that the film was saying about the transition from the silent film era into the talkies. How making silent films was a very quick process. It was a quicker process than making talkies, and how a lot of actors and actresses had to adjust to that, and how some of them didn't adjust very well. The film also goes over things with Brad Pitt's character about aging and how, when you get older, how you have to adjust to the film art form even more, how you have to bring something to the table that maybe you were once good looking when you were younger, or you did something better when you were younger, physically on set. What can you bring to the table when you get older? And so the film asks all these questions throughout the course of Babylon, and I had a really good time with it. It makes it in at number 10 on my list. At number 9, we have The Batman from Matt Reeves. I really enjoyed this film. Once again, a little long in the tooth, like Babylon was, but definitely a great Batman story. I think The Dark Knight is always going to be my favorite Batman movie. So that's always a high bar to raise and a high bar to achieve as far as making a better film than that. But as far as Matt Reeves making his own Batman story and his own Batman universe, this film succeeds. We had great performances from Zoe Kravitz and Paul Dano and Colin Farrell and all these really talented people that gathered together to play villains and other famous Gotham City characters over the course of this movie. And Robert Pattinson was a great Batman in it as well. It's just a terrific movie. It's a terrific Batman movie. It definitely checks a lot of the boxes as far as what a good Batman film should be doing. It makes it in at number 9 on my list. At number 8 on my list, we have a film that not a lot of people really saw, and I don't think it did very well in the box office, unfortunately, but it's really too bad because this is a very well-made movie and a very successful reboot in my book, and that is Confess, Fletch. This is a reboot of the Fletch films that Chevy Chase once starred in the 80s with Fletch and Fletch Lives. This film also does a clever way of kind of continuing those stories while also kind of not doing that at the same time. This clearly is John Hamm's version of the Irwin Fletcher character. But they definitely keep a lot of the things that you would see Irwin Fletcher's character doing at a later time in life. It was just a very successful reboot. It was very funny. I liked what John Hamm brought to the table. I liked the different things that he chose to do over what Chevy Chase once did with the character, while also kind of continuing all the things I loved about that first Fletch movie. So it's just a reboot that was very successfully done. I like that it acknowledges, in a way, some earlier Fletch stories that happened before it, while also kind of continuing those and choosing a different actor to play this character. Definitely a very fun film. I hope more people see it because I think it's very well made. It's also a good example of how to handle a reboot. So Confess Fletch makes it in at number 8 on my list. At number 7 on my list, we have Baz Luhrmann's Elvis. This is a very well-made movie. Austin Butler was terrific as Elvis Presley. There's even times in this movie where they show old footage of Elvis performing and Austin Butler doing the same thing in the movie, and they kind of compare and contrast the old footage of the actual Elvis along with Austin Butler's, and it really is terrific as far as how well he was able to portray Elvis Presley on film. Tom Hanks plays kind of the villain of the movie, kind of the nightmare manager of Elvis. It's just a very well-made film. Baz Luhrmann's always very visually good at crafting a film and visually making it interesting. Definitely a lot of interesting editing techniques he did with this movie to keep the story moving and to tell a lot of things about Elvis's career without having to dive too much into certain events. It's just a very well-made movie. It's very colorful, very visually dazzling. Baz Luhrmann definitely delivered on this movie. Elvis definitely makes it in at number 7 on my list. At number 6 on my list, we have a film that I actually originally didn't want to see, but people have been bothering me about it. Other moviegoers have been bothering me about it. Certain YouTubers I watch on YouTube have been bothering me about it. And that is the film Barbarian. At first, I thought this film was exactly what I thought it was going to be, but it is not. The trailers don't give anything away as far as what the film really is about. I was surprised from beginning to end as to what Barbarian was and how it played out. It's just a terrific film. It kept me guessing from beginning to end. I had no idea where the film was going, and that's just what's so terrific and original about it is I had no idea where it was going, and the film kept me on this roller coaster ride of a story throughout the entire runtime. The characters were interesting. There's interesting things about this house that you learn over the course of this movie and about all the dark secrets it contains. Barbarian is just a terrific example of how to make an original story, how to make something that might be a little familiar at first, but once you dive into the details, once you dive into the darker parts of the story, you have a really interesting story to tell. Barbarian is a great way to craft a story as to how to keep surprising me each and every turn the film goes. It's just a terrific story that I highly recommend seeing. Barbarian absolutely makes it at number 6 on my list. At number 5 on my list, I'm a huge video game person, so it makes a lot of sense that I would have this film on here. This film also came out around the time of my birthday, so I was a very happy person around the time this film was released. So I think that definitely added into the fun for this movie. And that's Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I loved this movie. As a big Sonic fan for my whole life, I thought all the stuff they had to do as far as incorporating Tails, incorporating Knuckles, continuing the Dr. Robotnik story, all the stuff they had to do to continue the story of Sonic, they achieved in brilliant fashion. There's even times in this movie where I think I almost prefer this over the first Sonic, and that's saying a lot because that first Sonic movie was very impressive to me as well. But definitely a great continuation, definitely a fun continuation, definitely a lot of things they did with the story, I think, that further the Sonic universe more in film. I know they're making a third one at some point. Hopefully they can convince Jim Carrey to come back if he's not completely retired from acting by then, which I heard that he is. But man, what a terrific movie. I love this film. Definitely everything a Sonic fan will want in a Sonic movie. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 makes it at number 5 on my list. At number 4 on my list, we have The Black Phone. This is a terrific movie. Stephen King's son wrote the short story that this is based on. But man, what a terrific film. It's just so... the story is so about, believing in yourself, making sure you make the most out of this kid is thrown in this really terrible scenario. He's put in this scenario by this guy called the Grabber. And just the way that the scares play out, just the way the mystery plays out, just the way the suspense plays out. I also like how this film almost kind of feels like things that have happened in the real world, but things that you wish were available to the victims at the time. Like having a phone that gives you advice of previous victims that had to go through what this kid was going through. And just everything about this movie was just, it's a combination of wish fulfillment of things that could have happened in real life, while also kind of continuing the idea of believing in yourself at the hardest of times. All are interesting things. I just absolutely loved what Stephen King's son did. I like how he's not just copying his dad, he really is kind of going his own path while also having the darkness of his stories the way his dad does. So the Black Phone makes it at number 4 on my list. It's a terrific movie. At number 3 on my list, we have a film that's going to be on a lot of people's top 10s, and that's Top Gun Maverick. I love this movie. I actually really like the first Top Gun as well. I don't get why people hate on the first one as much as they do, but man, what a terrific continuation. I love the story of what Maverick was doing over the years. The fact that they had actual live footage of people actually flying these jets, that we are really in these jets with them as these things are happening. Top Gun Maverick, it's just one of those stories where they continued everything they had to do with the first Top Gun while doing much, much more with it. I love how they gave Maverick a new love interest, a more appropriate love interest this time around. I love the stuff that they did with Iceman, very heartbreaking. All the stuff with the new pilots I thought was very good. Definitely got me interested in all this new band of pilots. Definitely a very well-crafted movie. Probably one of the most well-crafted films of the year. Top Gun Maverick makes it in at number 3 on my list. At number 2 on my list, we have the Disney and Pixar film Turning Red. This is an original story that I absolutely loved from beginning to end. It has a lot to say about puberty, about growing up, about dealing with parents while still loving them, while still having your differences with them when times are appropriate. The film just has so much to say about growing up and maturing and accepting the fact that your body is changing and that you are changing, and that the world that you once knew as a kid is not always going to be the exact same way when you turn into an adult or even a teenager. There's just so much things that the film does. There's things that they explore with this young girl's father in this that I thought was very good. They explore certain things about the mom's past with this girl, how she had almost an even worse condition than she did with turning into this red monster, this red panda. There's just so many things that this film did that I love when Pixar explores more mature topics. They started it in Inside Out and they continue it here, and they also brought it into another original story as well, which I love when a film does that, when it can find something original to do without copying something else that's already existing. So Disney and Pixar's Turning Red makes it in at number 2 on my list. But for number 1, my favorite film of the year was The Fabelmans. This is a Steven Spielberg film that might be one of his best films in probably the last 15 to 20 years, possibly. He's made a lot of films in that time frame that I really liked as well, but man, I loved The Fabelmans. It's just one of those films where I just can't get enough of this movie. I'm sure when I own the Blu-ray of this movie, I'm going to watch it numerous more times. It's just a film. I like that Steven Spielberg made a film that was much smaller. He wasn't too occupied with explosions and CGI and making the biggest film that he could. I like that he made a smaller movie. I like that he made a film that was about family, was about amateur filmmaking, was about finding what drives you in film, finding what keeps you going, finding out, how when something bad happens in your life, how when you pick up a video camera and if you're a filmmaker, there's something about creating a film and editing a film and doing something with friends and family in film that really kind of drives you, that makes you the person the way you are, that makes you as passionate as you are about certain things. It's just a film where I just cannot recommend it enough. It's just everything about this film is absolutely terrific. There's even a special cameo from a certain somebody at the end of the film that really drives the point home of just how terrific this film is. The Fabelmans absolutely is my favorite film of 2022, and it absolutely is number 1 on my list. So that was my top 10 favorite films of the year, you guys. Let me know down below what some of yours were. I hope 2023 has some great films for us. There's a lot of films I'm anticipating throughout 2023 that I hope are going to be really, really good. So hopefully I'll be around this time next year to tell you what those 10 films are as well. Like I said, let me know down below what some of your favorite films were of the year for 2022 down below. And I'll see you guys throughout 2023 for hopefully some more great movies and movies to review for you guys.